the Fitzy and Whipper with Kate Ritchie podcast.
How good is that?
Welcome to the EduKate podcast. Welcome to the studio, Jess and Lizzie.
Thank
Hi.
you.
You thought we'd, for the last episode, that maybe Jess and I could be educated a bit on you, things about you. And the audience would love to be educated on things about Kate.
Is this just leading into another session of bullying me about collecting tea towels?
No, we didn't actually
Absolutely
get
not.
one tea towel question. At the end of last ep, we asked for your questions. It's a bit like a Reddit Ask Me Anything. Have you seen one of those? You go on Reddit, an expert in their field kind of comes in and you can ask any question.
I did see it, and I shared the post on my own socials, and then I realised that it was making me feel a little bit nervous. So the questions that we do, well, I haven't seen them, but have you been through them with a fine-tooth comb?
Yeah.
They're
I
actually
think
really lovely.
And like the legal department signed off on most of them. So I think that's the most
But
important
have
thing.
they signed off on my answers?
Well, that's a good question. Lizzie,
All
why
right.
don't you kick us off with maybe the most asked question out of all of them?
What do you think it might be about?
Home and away.
No, it's what is your bra size? No, I'm kidding. Of course it was home and away. What is it, Lizzie?
A close second, though.
The people of social media want to know, would you ever go back on Home and Away again if you were invited again?
Because I did go back.
Yes,
when
I remember.
Wrapped up at the end of
Yeah,
2007.
you made us watch that when you started.
No, I did.
Yeah, you sat us all down and locked us in a room.
Please don't say that. I did go back for a guestie in 2013. I think I was back there for about 5 or 6 weeks.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I can't believe that was 11 years ago. I don't know. What I do know is that Home and Away is an amazing place to work, and I had a great time there. And I did enjoy going back those years later, but I don't know. It'd have to take something pretty special. Like, I think Mr. Stewart would have to invite Sally back to the Bay to warrant visiting again, because the thing is, Summer Bay's fine without Sally. You know, they've survived for all these years without her. What I miss is the working on. I would go back to work on set and work consistently and actually flex that kind of muscle in me. What I do think about going back is, and I think what I realised when I went back in 2013, and it's a bit like an old relationship and an old boyfriend or lover, or, that you have these very, very fond memories of, and you continue to have fond memories of, and you start to forget why you left in the first place.
Yes.
And I didn't leave because I was having a bad time. It was a coming of age kind of thing. I was almost 30 years old. It was time to go and work out who I was without this thing. But then as time goes on, you miss things because the memories of why you made the decision fade. You think, of course I should go back. But then when you go back, you realise that you've moved into a different part of your life.
Yeah.
It's almost as soon as you're back with the boyfriend, you wonder why on earth what are you doing back here?
Yes.
I know what this is. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I don't love the show, wouldn't go back at some point. It always has it's such a big part of me. But that was just one chapter of my life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get to work with you guys now.
That's very sweet. And the rest of them. I imagine it's a little bit like going back to high school. Like, you have all these fond memories and everything, but then you get back in there and it's like, well, you still got to do all the work of the classes and everything like that. But it's like same people, but you know that there was a time you kind of account down to it, like you hit year 12 and then you move on for a reason because you're done with school.
Exactly. And there was a time and a place for that, just like for all of us. When you look back on a job, it taught you particular things, and it was important for me to do other things. But in saying that, it's such a great and I get really excited when I meet the new, like the younger, if I've been invited back to Ray's 80th, for example, and you see the younger actors now working on the show, and of course you see the Lyns and the Adas and the people that are still there, understandably. But it's so nice to see those young actors and think, oh my goodness, I just hope they're having the great time that I had.
Same experience.
Yeah, because it's such a special. It's a bit like when you see kids at school now and you want to say to them, and they don't believe you when you say you make the most of this because they are the best years of your life. That's the way I feel when I see the young
I wish
cast
I could
now.
go back to when I was at school and be like, you don't pay bills right now.
Yeah.
Like, soak it up. You're done
Soak
at
it up.
3 p.m.
Yeah.
They give you an hour for lunch. Yeah, it's amazing. This kind of feeds into the next question, Kate. Has May seen any episodes of Home and Away? Have you seen any bits and pieces? Like, does she know that you were on it?
Yes, she does. She knows that I grew up on a television show, and she knows that it was called Home and Away. She started piecing things together because I guess the older she got, when people have approached me in the street or they've said, you know, they'd come up to me in Woolies and we'd have a photo, and she would sometimes say to me, "Who was that? Who's that? Do you know? How do you know that person?" And I would say, "I don't know that person." So I had to start explaining to her why people were approaching me, even though I didn't know them, so
Yes.
that she got the concept of stranger danger.
Yes.
And I wasn't just allowing people into my space that. Anyway, that's another whole conversation altogether. But she's seen little bits and pieces and more clips of me as a kid.
Yeah.
I certainly haven't had her sit down and watch the whole catalogue.
Yeah.
But I must say it's quite strange. Well, it's strange because, like, it just doesn't mean anything.
Yes.
And I only did it again the other night when she was a bit tired and emotional at bedtime. When she was little, I would sing her a lullaby to put her to sleep. But the song was the Home and Away theme song. And so now, of a night, and even like 3 nights ago, she said to me, "Can you sing me a nice song to help me go to sleep, Mummy? Can you sing the Home and Away song?" And for her, it has nothing to do with Home and Away. It's just the lullaby that Mum used to sing me. I've got actually little recordings of us doing it when we were younger, and I take a deep breath and I go, "You know we belong together."
Oh, that's actually a very nice lullaby.
Sweet.
It's a beautiful lullaby. And it's kind of nice because I'm lying there, I'm putting my beautiful little Bubba to sleep, who is now older than I was when I started on the show. But there's a little moment of feeling connected to something that was such a big part of my life as a kid too.
Yeah, how full circle.
You know what? I love that she doesn't know anything about it. It's like, what do we know about our parents before we were born? Nothing.
It's a nice thought to think that you get the Home and Away theme song, which is "You Know We Belong Together," beautiful lyrics. Imagine if Jennifer Aniston had kids. So no one told your life was gonna go this way.
Oh my God.
You never get to sleep.
No.
Jump scare.
This is the Fitzy and Whipper with Kate Ritchie podcast.
Well, now looking past Home and Away and looking forward to where you are now.
Yeah.
The next question is it fun working with Fitzy and
Which
Whipper?
one of them submitted it, Lizzie?
Yeah.
Can't tell you that.
No, that was an actual
And
listener question.
do I have to answer them as a duo?
No,
or do I have
separately.
do I separate them?
No, please.
Give them their own identity.
Do I prefer
And
one?
who's funnier?
One over the other? Well, I will never be answering. I mean, who's funnier, me? Of course,
Surprisingly funny.
No, yeah. I love working with the boys. I really do, and I have to say that the opportunity to join Brecky for like lots of reasons has just been amazing, and the guys are great to work with, but it's the whole team that makes it wonderful. I get really self-conscious because it always sounds really insincere, but I mean it truly. It's so warm. They couldn't be more different people.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's the whole thing works.
Yeah.
It's like
Totally. And I think the one thing I've noticed, because obviously I'm in here in the studio with you guys pressing the buttons, it's like for me, if ever I have a sick day or if I'm off and I put the show on, it's so weird to me just to hear the on-air breaks, because so much of the heart and soul of the show is the team and everyone off air and what happens behind the scenes and everything. Like
Yes.
And I think you're right, Kate, in that you have been sort of welcomed in with a big warm hug, and
Yeah.
you have such a place in the show and everyone's so thrilled and happy you're here and you do such a wonderful job. But it's just, yeah, it sounds great on air,
Yeah.
but off air, it's such a beautiful environment.
It is. It's a great. Yeah. I don't think until this point, because and without wanting to go, without wanting to reference Home and Away again, Home and Away and working on a show like that is like some little warm cocoon.
Yeah.
Right. And it is like a family. And I don't think I've felt that again until coming in here. And maybe it's like the period of my life and working with, you know, dads of young kids, and it just feels like we're all so different, but we've all got so much in common.
Yes.
And I guess maybe that's what makes the show great. So the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And I'm still the funnier one.
Of course.
But actually,
Oh my God, of course.
You can't
Yeah, it's
say-
actually not even a question.
And you know what? We can say that because we know that neither of them are going to listen to this podcast.
No.
spot on. Okay, we'll whip through a few of these. What's your dream acting role? Is there
Okay.
anything you've seen and you're like, oh, I wish I was in that?
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm good at playing members of families and mums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I really would like? A role where it's like it's kind of dire. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be so happy-go-lucky.
Yes.
Yeah,
More
your
real.
acting chops
Yeah,
out.
something to sink
Yeah.
my teeth into a bit.
Okay.
Love that.
Someone wants to know, how did you get to start writing books?
Well, the first book I wrote, I Just Couldn't Wait to Meet You, came out of a little bit of laziness because I wrote it when I was on maternity leave from the Drive show, and I knew that I wouldn't complete May's baby book, you know, the ones where you write, oh,
Yes.
the first thing
Harry
you
Zeta.
said, or I can't wait to meet you. And I started to write a little bit of a letter to her that I thought, like, I'll stick that in a book. And I realised maybe this is a book. So if you're listening, May, I may not have completed your baby book, but I wrote you a book and I had it printed. So that's kind of how it started. But I've always written. I've got lots of little writings at home, but they just haven't made it to print.
Do you know that I went to my friend Annie's house the other day, who's just had her second baby, beautiful little Oliver, and she said that her first baby, Zoe, has been bringing a book over to her to read, like while Oliver's been sitting there. And she said that she's been reading it, and it wasn't until like the fourth time that she flipped it over that she saw that it was your book. Like she hadn't even registered. She said, can you please pass on that it's such a beautiful story? And they're really loving it at the moment with new baby Oliver.
Oh,
and the
that's
family.
so
That's
nice.
lovely to hear.
Kate, okay, let's jump back to radio on this question. What are you most proud about having learned in radio? Because let's be honest, you've got new skills as of the past 2 years. You're doing a lot of the forward announcing, back announcing the songs. You're doing teasers. You didn't really do that in some of the other on-air roles you had. Is that maybe what you're most proud of? Or
I
what
think
is it?
so. Like, I've had to step up a bit. I can even introduce Ariana Grande if you ask me. You know,
But not Flow Rider, 'cause we did say Florida the first time.
I mean, I'm still working on it. Look, I think with radio, because every day is so different, you'll never know everything. But I think what I do know now and what I've learnt here doing the Drive show is like more of the foundation stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been able to tell a story. You can't shut me up. This is obvious. But it's the stuff that is the glue of the show and more of the workings and the technicalities that I'm actually really proud of, that I've picked up over the last couple of years because I've had to put it into practice. And what else?
Although something I've learnt about radio the past year and a half with Kate here is don't give her a compliment. 'Cause one morning I said to Kate, you have been sounding so good forward announcing the songs, because obviously I fire them off. There's a little countdown timer that goes. So as Kate's talking, she's watching the song lyrics about to get closer and closer. It's called Hitting the Post. And she did such a good job one morning. Like, she just absolutely nailed it. And then I said, you were fantastic. And then I think it was the next one, you messed it up. And then you said you went home and you thought about it all day and you said, I probably can't have a compliment because it messes me up on the next one.
If I do a good job, please don't tell me.
So
I'm
I've
not
been
used
trying
to
to
it.
keep it
jinxing
quiet.
it.
It is. It's like I don't like yeah. So and a bit of behind the scenes on those first few times that I actually did introduce a song or kind of back announce. Well, once you couldn't hear me anymore, I was like high-fiving myself, squealing, lying on the floor, because as much as people might think you just know that stuff, you don't until you do it, and it's such a proud.
it's impressive.
You can teach an old dog new tricks.
Can indeed.
Well, we might end with this one, but if you weren't in the media or acting or doing anything like that, what would you be doing, or what would you have liked to have done? Was there something that you wanted to be when you were growing up, or something you thought about that wasn't necessarily in this industry?
Oh, I mean, ideally, I'd just win the lotto and go and live in the country and
Love that.
collect tea towels and make jam. And I'm not even joking.
To get to tea towels.
But my dad worked in the police force, so there was a moment where I thought if I left home and away and I had to kind of go and do something that wasn't attend university, but I was, I'd go to the academy and maybe I'd be a policewoman.
Sergeant Ritchie.
Yeah, I think I'd be quite good.
I think you'd be good.
I think I'd work with kids and families, and I don't know, but I went to an ag school, so my options were I would have liked to have done vet science, or I really wanted to do architecture, and both of those would have required very high TERs. So I'm not sure. Maybe I would have got a better TER had I been at school full time, but those were my interests.
I love that.
Because, I started drawing the magic faraway tree rooms when I was little, and then would draw houses that I wanted my family in Campbelltown to upgrade to. So I think that's the architecture thing.
I love
That's
that.
so nice.
I love the thought of say you did wrap up Home and Away when you were say 20 or something, and you went and became a cop. Every time you get a call, all right, just heading to a Home and Away invasion. It's just a home invasion. We tell you this every time, Richie.
But no one would believe me. They think I was the stripper or because it's you're not a real cop, you're an actor.
Oh, very funny. I just have one more to squeeze in, just because we know she's a close personal friend, and we would just love to there's no one on the line. Just want to know sort of how you became friends with her, one of Australia's favourite redheads. Pauline Hanson, talk us through.
Yeah, you're talking about Isla, aren't you?
Well, no, I was just talking about Pauline Hanson. You don't even have to talk about Isla. Kate Ritchie, what a privilege, what a pleasure. Thank you for coming on your own podcast. What a treat.
Thanks for educating us on you.
Oh, it feels a bit self-indulgent.
No, not at all, because that was all. They were all questions that people had written in and were keen to know. I mean, we don't get to delve into this stuff on radio. We get snippets. We get 3.5 minutes if we're doing things that Brendan will approve of. 7-minute breaks if we're pushing past, and then Tom has to have a meeting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's a small amount of time.
The boys, I mean, they're just not interested in me. No one asks me about me in the studio,
Kate.
so I thank you very much.
Of course.
It'll be the 3rd year of EduKate next year.
Stop, no it won't.
Yeah, it will.
Are you serious?
Because we started in the lead up to Taylor's concert, then that was at the start of the year, so then this will be the next year.
Okay, and who have we got coming in the new year? Dua Lipa.
Ooh. Hopefully it's looking like Sabrina.
Oh, Sabrina.
Oh, we've got plenty of content. And if all else fails, I'm quite happy to answer your questions.
Fitz in Whipper with Kate Ritchie is a Nova podcast. For more great shows like this, download the Nova Player via the App Store or Google Play.
The Nova Player.